All right, welcome to the Raising Talent podcast by Pathfound. We're your hosts. My name is Apampa. I'm head of learning experiences at Pathfound, and we have next to me my co-host.
I'm Femi Longe, CEO and co-founder at Pathfound.
Fantastic. And today we have a very special guest with us on our first episode. Her name is Crystal, but she's going to tell us a bit more about herself. Crystal, over to you.
Thank you, Ora. Thank you, Femi, for having me. My name is Crystal Chigbu. I'm the founder and the executive director of Irede Foundation. What Irede does is basically to initiate action so that children with disabilities can live a limitless life. But more importantly, I love people. I like good food. And of course, you probably will know that I love colors. So I have a lot of colors around me. My hair gives me away.
Awesome. Really nice to meet you.
So Crystal has been like my friend for like a long time.
Yeah.
And Crystal, when we met, you worked at Procter & Gamble.
Absolutely.
What did you do there? Because
So
I
at the
know
time
that was then.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I worked for Procter & Gamble, I joined Procter & Gamble, I think in 2003. Yeah, 2003.
Okay.
I joined Procter & Gamble in the sales team. And I think the interesting thing is how I joined Procter & Gamble because
That's
I was,
customer business development.
yes, and I was in school, finished, and then my friend said, you know what, these guys are coming to recruit. And then, the way it worked is you just hear that recruitments are happening, you drop off your CV, you go and all of that. So, and she was like, let's go and write the test. And I'm like, I'm not writing any test. And she said, let's just go. And so I traveled all the way from Lagos to Ibadan to go and write Procter & Gamble tests. And then we were like 300 or so. Finished writing the test, and
Wow.
they were just going to call the people that passed. And because I was not looking forward to anything per se, I literally, wasn't ready. So they're calling numbers and names. And I was like, out of 300 people, how come it's just 2 people they've called? Like, really? And then the next thing, I heard my name. I was like, oh my God. But finally, only 5 people succeeded that day out of 300 people. And I would say that's where my journey really started. And for the first time, I took everything that was going to happen seriously. So I started the interview process. Again, still not having a lot of expectations. And then finally, got into the sales department because, apparently they were recruiting for sales, which we called CBD, customer business development. And then I honestly did not know why the guy really picked interest in me. But I know that it was going to change everything about my life because if you know me, I'm not too much of a serious person. I'm just everywhere and all around the place. And that's how I got into Procter & Gamble. And from the day I got in, I was in Procter & Gamble for 13 years before I finally left Procter & Gamble. I worked with the sales team all through, but I did different things from selling, direct selling, which we called, key accounts, working with different key accounts. I moved from that point to doing back office support, which we call business operations. So literally working with the accounts, with the logistics team, ensuring that the distributors were doing well. Then I left that and did a bit of e-commerce. Then after a while, I left to broaden my assignments. And then I moved to the marketing department, did that for another 1 year, came back to the CBD team and, till I finally resigned. Then before then, I opened new channels and then even did a bit of marketing support and trade marketing for sales.
Really, really fascinating journey. I've never told you this, but I actually got a job offer from CBD department in 2003.
Are you serious? That means we would have
Yes.
been
I never
colleagues.
took it.
Same year.
We would have been colleagues, yes. But
Wow.
I want to go a few steps back. I want to go a few steps backward. Before the journey to that interview itself,
Yeah.
what did you study in university? How did you get into that course?
And I laughed because again my journey, my university journey was interesting because I eventually studied biochemistry. in the University of Lagos, the prestigious University of Lagos. I'm not sure Femi likes this because the school he went to, they are kind of,
I went to the only African university. So, yes, it's okay to call yourself prestigious.
but before I got into Unilag, I had actually gone to two different schools before I finally went to Unilag. I first went to Federal School of Radiography to study radiography because immediately I left secondary school.
What is radiography?
Radiography is a course where you do X-rays and scans, and the people that do the reading of the scans and X-rays, and that was initially what I went into school to study. I did that for about 3-4 months, and then I left there and went to Yaba College of Technology. It's now a university. It's no longer Yaba College of Technology, and I studied science lab tech. And then while I was there, I then gained admission to Unilag to go do biochemistry. All of this was in the bid to study medicine, by the way, because I wanted to be a medical doctor. I wanted to, in fact, I saw one of my journals lately and I had written inside that I wanted to help people by raising money. Honestly, as someone that just left secondary school, I didn't know what I was writing down because I honestly didn't know what that meant. But maybe when we go into the journey of my life through secondary school and all, then you understand why raising money was one of the things that, popped out. But I really just wanted to help. I didn't want people to be sick. I didn't want to have, issues around me. And I just wanted to solve that. And I believe that by being a medical doctor, I would have a lot of money and I would be able to help as many people that I wanted to help. So that's how I studied biochemistry in the University of Lagos.
So you were studying biochemistry, and like I always say, anyone who's studying biochemistry, microbiology, zoology, botany,
they're
all people who wanted to study medicine but didn't get medicine. How did you feel about biochemistry? And what was your plan for after biochemistry?
Honestly, I would say I was forced to study biochemistry because my brother told me then, coincidentally, his name is Femi. He told me, he said, just get into the school. Just find your way into the environment. And then when you get in there, you should be fine. And so, all the intention, I wanted to go to your university. So that's why my journey started first with Federal School of Radiography. At the time, they were not affiliated to any university. So it didn't feel like what I wanted to do. It didn't matter whether it was closer to what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into the university. So then into Yabatech. No, I didn't want to settle for a polytechnic. I just wanted to get into a university. And then finally got into Unilag. As soon as I started, and my brother told me then, he said, you know what? This is the closest you get to medicine. This is like studying medicine. And to make things more interesting, biochemistry in the University of Lagos, we had our lectures in the College of Medicine. So we were having our lectures, at par with the medical students. However, we were not, it wasn't the same thing. So we would have some classes in sciences in Unilag, Akoka, and then we'll go to Idiaraba. For those who do not know, Idiaraba is just College of Medicine in University of Lagos. And, the more I studied that, I wasn't sure whether that was what I wanted to do with my life, but it was just, I needed to get through school. But because I was in College of Medicine, I was still seeing the medical students. I was hearing anatomy. It felt to me like I was closer home. So it made sense at the time. Yeah.
So I've got a question, actually. So, I mean, you're studying alongside medical students, right? Did you at any point feel like you were close, but maybe you were not quite there? And then how did you navigate the feeling of, okay, maybe I'm not going to do medicine anymore? Or how did that decision come about?
Absolutely. I mean, you felt like second class to the medical students because, again, it wasn't like we were having all our lectures together. They were doing biochemistry as a course. So when they're doing biochemistry, they would come in and take their classes and then go. But we weren't taking courses like anatomy. So we would go back to, Akoka for our science courses. And so it didn't really feel like it. But, by this time, I was beginning to enjoy the pathways. And I have a friend that actually calls me Pathways. I was enjoying the pathways. The fact that I now began to understand the course and see the link to medical science as its way. And I realized that, the medical guys couldn't actually be medical doctors without me, without the work that I did. Then, by the time you get into school, you realize that there are a lot more courses beyond medicine. So pharmacology, pharmacy. And so I just really realized that even the radiography I left was, a very good course. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm already here. Let me just finish this and get out of here. But again, I still didn't understand the part of my life. And went through school and just, graduated. And, somehow when you graduate in Nigeria, you're looking for a job, you're looking for money. So it was basically, what's the best thing to get me on track to get funds?
So, interest in medicine, sales. How did you justify that transition in your own head? And what were there things that you could borrow from that whole biochemistry journey that was useful at the point of sales? And then I also want to assume that when you went to school, you were not a triangular student. Class, library, room. Class, library, room.
No.
So what else were you involved in?
I was involved in a lot of things while I was in school. I wasn't I wasn't that triangle student. In fact, maybe if you draw, it'd be like an octagon. I was doing a lot of things. So first, I was very involved with faith. So church fellowship, I would do fellowship, and I think that really helped me because it helped me to build tenacity in terms of you can't be in the ESCO if you're not doing very well academically. So that really helped me, marrying the vigils and all of that.
For our audience, what's ESCO?
Oh, executive. So, for it's like being in a leadership position, really.
Okay.
Part-time, I was JC member.
So you said you also did parties.
Oh, yes. No, I'll come to the
You
parties.
also did parties.
Yes, I'll come to the parties because the parties are kind of linked to, there were also a lot of activities. So, ISEC, but for me, it was JC's because there was a JC member that was my friend. And so I was a lot more with them. And, with that came the parties or events. So some were just events that happened in school, and then you had to be a part of the event. And with the event, you volunteered and all of that. Then I did business while in school. So Femi, you asked the question, biochemistry and sales. So in my final year, I got accommodation, and then I was in the prestigious, again, Moremi Hall. So I sold my bed space. And that was when the mobile networks were coming into Nigeria. So I sold my bed space and took the money, got a phone and a line, and I started doing call business. So I would have a lot of people, come and use the phone lines. So I made money back for the phone. I made money that I spent. And when the lines came in newly into Nigeria, they were very expensive. So I bought it that expensive and I was able to make my money. And then, I started this business. And even after I left school, I continued the business. And so when I was applying to Procter & Gamble's, one of the interview questions really was around, what I had done. And for me, I just wanted to be like, I'm a hustler. Basically, what I did was I sold my bed space. I started squatting with someone. And then sometimes, I would go back home and then I was using this and I was able to raise money, did business and manage all of that. So the then boss was intrigued and was like, oh my God, this is the person we need in the sales department because you need to be able to sell, work with distributors and all of that. So I didn't even think it was a big deal. Yeah. And so that's how, that was actually my journey and transition into customer business development, because the questions were around, how I developed the business, how I built my customers. Because one of the things also is I had repeat customers, people that, they had other places where they could make calls, but they would rather come to me because they had better connection with me and all of that. And interestingly, some of them are still my friends till today, even though I'm no longer doing the phone business. So I'll say that's the connection, Femi, to sales.
Brilliant. And I think it's really interesting that it sounds like the key driver to get into the career that you spent 13 years in wasn't even the stuff you were doing in the classroom. It
Absolutely.
was the stuff that you were doing outside classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go one step back again in history. So before Federal College of Radiology, secondary school, at what point did you reach that decision, medicine or health sciences or medical is my area of interest? How did you get to it?
Interestingly, I'm one of those people that, school boarding house. So I went to a federal school, and I think that also. So in Nigeria, you have the unity schools that are also called federal schools, and these schools are spread across all the states. And because they are spread across all the states, you could be living in Lagos State, for instance, and you'd be going to school in Plateau State, like it was my case. So I schooled in Plateau State, met with a lot of people and all of that. And while I was there, I just really, my mom fell ill. And I felt like, if I were a medical doctor, I'd be able to take care of her. I'll be able to help manage her situation. For a very long time, we didn't know that, it was diabetes. So it would be treatment for malaria today, typhoid tomorrow, and, consistently treating her for malaria and typhoid until finally, we realized the diagnosis came and we realized that it was diabetes. Then secondly, there was a time that she had a burn incidents at home, and trying to manage it. I came home on a holiday, was really difficult. The situation or the solutions that people were bringing was not the right solution. I knew it wasn't the right solution, like put pap on it, put this one on it, break an egg on it, and all of that. And then as a child, like I said, I'm all over the place. I stepped on a bottle because I was running around barefoot, and then it pierced, and so I had to go through minor surgery, trying to stitch it, and all of that. So I've had my fair share. I'm like, okay, all those people that took care of me and all of that, I just wanted to be like them. So, and again, I was in science class. I didn't want to be an engineer because I didn't think it was very girly and all of that. So I just wanted to be doctor, and so that's basically why I wanted to be a medical doctor, and that was it.
Interesting.
Again, thinking back to that period of time and the entrepreneurial you that started the mobile business. When you were in secondary school, were you involved in anything entrepreneurial, or what else were you involved in outside school?
Trade by barter. I would give people my food and get them to fetch water for me. Because again, I was really small. And my secondary school at the time, we didn't have pipe-borne water. So you would have to go into the village to go and get water. And so me carrying buckets and going into the village and all of that wasn't something that I really wanted to do. And because I'm Yoruba by birth and Westerner, and I was schooling in the Middle Belt, some of the foods that we were given in school were not things that I was familiar with, so I could pass. So when I have those meals, I will swap my meal and get somebody to fetch me water. And why you would say that for me was business. It was just a way to get by and, get paid. Even though I did not have the cash to give you, I would swap that. I would copy people's notes and get them to give me their chicken. So there were ways around, kind of like doing business, even though I wasn't very, I didn't know it was a form of business then. So you just trade by barter. You would need somebody to plait your hair, and there will be something else you need to do for the person in return. So, I mean, for me, my hair was longer then. And so I needed to have somebody that would plait my hair. So you plait my hair, I'll dress your bed. So I had those kind of arrangements.
Okay.
Hey.
Nice.
Fantastic.
And at any point in secondary school, did you ever get guidance or support or advice? I know you've mentioned your brother a few times and the advice he gave you, but did you get any other help, support from parents, from guidance counselor, from anyone around? Hey, this is what I think you're good at. This is what I think you should do.
In school then, we had a guidance and counseling teacher, someone. So she would call you in. What I remember very well was I got a lot of guidance in terms of getting being a science student. Like, you're so good with physics, you're good with biology, you should be a science student. But when I finished secondary school, I had a friend of my sister's. His name is Shola. I remember him very well. I mean, he was very instrumental into my getting into Federal School of Radiography, and then Yabatech and Unila, because he kept saying, you can't stay at home. You can't while away that time. You have to be busy. Keep your mind busy. And so he would say, you need to do something. And he kept telling me, you have to continue till you get exactly what you want. In fact, recently he reached out to me and said, why have you not done your MBA? You need to go and do your MBA. You need to have an MBA. So it was kind of like, the voice of reasoning for us, because in their own family, they are well read and all of that. We didn't have that privilege in my own family. But my elder brother, because he was the first to get into a university, kept, trying to get the rest of us to be on that same track. And when we got into school, kept reminding, it's not enough to get into school, get good grades, get busy, and all of that. So yes, I would say it's Shola and it's my elder brother, Femi.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
I mean, this is quite an incredible journey. I just wanted to recap some things I learned from this. So you're saying, what I'm hearing from you is that sometimes what you may be good at or what may call out to you may not necessarily be what you're studying, but going through the process of still going to university exposed you to some things that then led you to that path. And then your career guidance can come from different people, not just from your school. It can come from people who are within your close circles, like your family. It could also be friends of friends. And then you should pay attention to the little things that you do that come to you so naturally, you take them for granted. For example, the business stuff you were doing from secondary school, by trade by barter, where you're trading services for goods or just services for services. And then when you got to university, thinking, okay, how can I make sure I make more money with the resources I already have? It's fantastic. Okay. So I think,
Thank you. Already.
Brilliant. So
Well,
just to add though, so you've then had the big transition after
yes.
13 years.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
what was this
Okay,
transition? Tell us.
So basically, while in Procter & Gamble, I got married and then gave birth to my daughter. And my daughter had a congenital limb deformity, and her leg, got amputated. And I think, again, that literally changed my life. Like, it changed the course of my life. Because then, for me, it became much more. Working for Procter & Gamble taught me to impact lives. And when I started selling Pampers, literally, I realized that I was changing lives. I was very happy about it. And I was your field person. Like, I would go into the field, get it done, get my hands dirty, and really like the fact that I was really touching people. So for me, one of the best works I did in Procter & Gamble was, giving diapers and seeing someone transition from nappies to diapers, literally. And so when my daughter's leg had to be amputated, I wasn't really thinking to do anything much, but I wanted to touch more people and share my story. And that was just it. Of course, I got out there to share my story, and I realized that, wait a minute, it's much more than sharing your story. You need to do something about the situation to change it. And because when you do something to change it, it's not only for the other people you're changing it for, your child will also be a beneficiary of, the policies, the things that work. Because at the time, nobody was talking about disability. Like I like to say, disability wasn't sexy because of the, cultural, religious beliefs and everything that is around disability. If you had a child with disability or you yourself had a disability, it was like a taboo. So I just really wanted to change the narrative. And so Irede Foundation started. I started the foundation to be able to give back in that regard. And I wasn't really thinking of leaving my job. But for every time a child got a limb, I realized that there's so much more. And so I started thinking of leaving this job that I liked so much for something greater. Now for me, it was much more beyond just, making money, but also being able to impact all others beyond money. And remember that I told you I came across somewhere where I said I wanted to raise money. remember all the things that happened. I wasn't even connecting the dots yet. And so for me, it was just, change the world around you. So yeah, now I can really help people. And, the congenital deformity that my daughter had, linked to biochemistry, it was easier for me to understand because I had a medical background, because the
Background. Yeah.
biochemistry, the anatomy, the pathways, and everything, I could understand when the doctors were trying to explain to us what must have happened. And so, for me, I would say a part of me believes very strongly that there is no knowledge that is wasted. Somehow, everything is intertwined and kind of just links. My career in Procter and Gamble of selling is linked to my fundraising today, and having to realize that, at every point in life we are selling. So
Mm.
it was easier for me to love fundraising and saying, be able to exchange the value of helping you as an individual to understand that you're giving back to collecting money from you to be able to give limbs. So I say this to say somehow everything just ties together and tie up. So after 13 years, I decided to leave P&G to pursue this new dream, which, honestly, the way it's even gotten and it's beginning to, it's like peeling an onion. It just keeps opening up. And I'm like, okay, we just really wanted to tell stories. Then it goes beyond telling stories to giving limbs. Oh, we just wanted to give limbs. Oh, it goes beyond limbs to policies. Oh, we just wanted to influence policies. It goes beyond policies to now comic books. Oh, we want to do comic books. Oh, now we now start talking access. Now we are talking games. Now, so, you just keep peeling the onion, but somehow everything is just connected.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, your whole story is very inspiring. Like literally, I'm just hearing, I'm just thinking, wow. But how do you, when you move from working in Procter and Gamble, a prestigious job, and you move into the not-for-profit sector, my concern with that would be, okay, but how am I going to make money? How am I going to survive? I'm used to this standard of living, earning this much here. How do I do this now? And because that for many people would be a stumbling block. They'll be like, yes, I'd love to do it, but I also need to earn. So how did you manage and balance that?
2015 was when I left Procter & Gamble finally, like when I left. And yes, there was a transition. So I didn't start to make money immediately. Irede started in 2012. And between 2012 and 2015, I didn't manage Irede directly. I was still on my job. And by 2014, late 2014, I knew that I needed to move. Of course, I started putting together my emergency funds. But sometimes, it really never prepares you for what the journey is ahead. So yes, I tried to do some savings, but it wasn't enough. So I needed to come to a place of realizing and trying to understand, the nonprofit space. Because again, if you look through my journey, it's biochemistry, selling, it's really different from the nonprofit space. So the first thing that I did was there was a gap, and I went to school. I did a course in social sector management to try and understand how the nonprofit sector really works. And one of the things that Procter and Gamble had taught me, and still in school I found out, was you needed structure for anything to really work. Because, in those days we used to say it's Mr. Procter and Gamble are no longer alive, but the business still is running. So the first thing that I started doing when I took over, Irede, was to start setting up structures and systems. For the first years, Irede wasn't paying me. Irede couldn't afford to pay me at all, but we ensured that we set up the right systems and processes. So it took about a year after I joined in 2015, Irede, for it to stabilize before the foundation started paying me a salary and I started earning. But even what I was earning was not up to 1/10 of what I was earning in Procter & Gamble. Then I had the support of my husband, Zubi. So he came to the fore and, kept, taking care of everything, family, and handling everything. But again, because when I took the transition, I didn't do it alone. Zubi was involved. We agreed that it was time for me to move. And not just that, and Femi is really a part of this journey. My friends, I had to really sit down and, map out the journey. Irede has transitioned. It's not the same way or the place where we started from, and it's still transitioning. So it keeps getting better and better. In my mind, And I think also with my age and where I am today, one of the key things that matters to me in life is fulfillment. I want to be able to sleep and wake up. In my earlier years, trust me, money was a driving factor. So moving from and working for Procter & Gamble and chasing the manager position and, trying to get the promotions and everything was because at that stage, I needed the funds to build. So yes. So now, the funds, I ticked a couple of boxes in my life. I'm now at that stage where one of the key things that matters to me is happiness, is, the fulfillment of what I do. Doesn't mean that I don't want money and I don't still think of how to have a sustainable organization, which is one of the conversations I keep having with everybody I have today. But, that helped me to transition easily and, get me to a place of stability where the foundation now could, pay me a salary that it's okay for me to live a life. That's the first thing. The second thing, I still do a couple of businesses at the side. So that tells you about how my entrepreneurial side and mind works. So I have books that I've authored. And so from the proceeds of the book, I get royalty. And then I still have monies that go back to the foundation. I consult for people. I lecture from time to time. So all the things that I love to do in line with the work that I do at Irede, I continue to do. And that becomes like a stream of income for me. So interestingly, I train fundraising or facilitate fundraising for Lagos Business School. So every time I do that, I get paid an honorarium. That also helps, to ensure that my financial bottom line is well taken care of.
I think it's interesting. There's a stage you are in life where the assumption is that one stream of income, a salary that someone pays me every month, is the sole source of income that drives everything in life. And then the older you get, the more you realize you can actually be earning from multiple sources at the same
Absolutely.
time. Of course, the dots always connect backwards, right? If you think about it now, you can see some things that join up together. But looking back on life now, based on the gift of hindsight, if you were at the point of selecting a course in university again, let's say we're zeroing down back those decades ago when you chose, would you still have chosen biochemistry?
No, I wouldn't have. I would have probably done mass communication or something. And that's looking at Nigeria because of the kind of, we have limited courses. If it was like, abroad, I'll probably have done international relations or international development. I will probably have done something around, business management. Because really, I would say throughout the journeys, one thing that, has really shown as something that is important across is building relationships. So if you look at when I was working with distributors and managing customers and all of that, I was building relationships with them and managing that. And if you look at the work that I do with Irede Foundation today, with the donors, with the families, it's building relationships and connections and all of that. So pretty much I would have done something in that regard that helps me to be able to tell stories better and just show up before people really. That would be the kind of course that I would have studied. And I would have studied it with pride.
Though I imagine, though, then if you told your parents then that your objective and your goal is to run an NGO, they probably would have organized prayer and night video.
I feel like you like come and tell me now that she wants to run an NGO.
and maybe that's important transition then. So we've talked about your journey, but now you're a mother of two. Yes. And you're guiding other people's journey, which is the whole point of this whole conversation. How is that? How's the experience of helping your kids discover themselves and express themselves? Particularly a Beulah, for example, with the disability, in an environment like Nigeria. What's that journey been like for you, helping them find themselves, helping them discover themselves and express themselves?
Femi, thank you. It's been very interesting. I think the first thing that I've learned and being a parent is that children are not the same. They are not they're not alike. They are so different. Beulah and Eden are different kids. Interestingly, Beulah is very entrepreneurial. Eden is not very. Eden is more academic, and it's interesting because like Eden buys everything Beulah is selling, but he's selling nothing to her. And it's just so interesting. So I think that's the first thing that I've learned, and I will explain later. The second thing that I've also learned is you as a parent, whether you know it or not, you influence your child. When they see you, what they see around them every day. So my kids see my husband and I go to work and all of that. So somewhere at the back of their minds, work is very, very key and it's important. In fact, they joke about my husband and I, and they say, "Mommy just works, Daddy has money." So I say all of the time. Yeah, because I'm the wake up in the morning, go to the office and all of that. And then sometimes my daughter will say, "My daddy is just always on the phone, but he has money." And I'm like, that's work. So I think they see you, they see how you show that work is important, and they learn those things from you, whether you like it or not. So one of the things that we've done, and I'm not saying I now because it's not what I've done alone, it's Zubi and I, that we've done with the kids first, is to try to take them and understand their individuality. Like I said, Eden is very academic. Eden is your, but Beulah is strangely the ones that dissect the thing, and she starts asking herself very quickly, what can I make from this? So she's very entrepreneurial. She has sold, there's nothing she cannot sell. And, sometimes people say, "Oh, she got that from you." Like, she can sell you anything. Whether you need it or not, you will buy it. And, she has done different businesses, even though they are not structured. She has done different businesses, from selling beads to, like I said, she would draw something on a piece of paper and make her brother buy it and make everybody around her buy it. And then she has also learned very quickly to invest. And I say that from what she sees around. We've also listened to them and be very instrumental. So I've told you that the people that influenced my own journey, my brother and a family friend. But for us, we are so involved, asking them, what would you like to do? And why do you want to do that thing? So Beulah, for instance, wants to do psychology, and she's very specific, clinical psychology. And afterwards, she wants to do law. And she has a reason why she wants to do both. Eden wants to, with the trend of things, I would say engineering, but more go into coding and games and all of that. Maybe because, again, that's the trend of things. He sees an uncle of his that he really admires that has worked for a lot of tech companies, and he's successful. So he wants to tow after that line. So what we basically do is ask ourselves the question, what can we do to support you? But you, the child, will do the work. So you want to swim, you will do the work of waking up and showing up. We will do the work of taking you. So that way we've been able to get them to really be into what they want to do. Interestingly, Beulah recently asked me, say, why do you give us your plan and your agenda to follow? I feel like there's a place where the parent needs to be very insistent on things that also will help your child to get to the places where they need to get to. So for instance, I wake you up in the morning and teach you discipline. Discipline is you dress your bed. It doesn't matter whether you like to dress it or not. And it feels like it's detached. But for me, that's those kind of things that helps your child to learn discipline. Even when they find themselves in the workplace, they find them. So they literally show up. You don't have to like it. But there, it's my agenda, like my daughter has defined it. But I make sure that, you're a part of that agenda while you're still a child, and I can mold and groom you. So pretty much, it's still a learning curve, for me. But also, we've tried very much not to just allow them to do a lot of academic work, but to, be involved in a lot of activities. So sports, leadership programs, everything that they can get to learn from. So sometimes my friends tell me, oh, they don't even have a break or a holiday. I'm like, no, there's play, that is, included in everything, but just exposing them, travels to different things that just will shape and form their minds. I didn't have the opportunity to travel as a child, outside the country, but I moved from state to state, in Nigeria. And I understand the diversity that brings in. I moved from, there are people that lived in Lagos State and the only place they knew was, Ikeja. I know the whole of Lagos State. And that happened from, going for church programs with my dad. So I would go from Jigbo to Ajangbadi to Yaba and so I knew all of these places. So now I have the opportunity to expose my child, not just to Nigeria, to the globe, and for them to realize that, it's much more than, what is much more than Nigeria, is much more than my home. The world is actually way bigger.
Fascinating. So maybe jump on that and jump on something you said, which is listen to them. It's not a very Nigerian parent thing. Maybe it's a newer generation thing.
Absolutely.
But at least I know growing up, the child is meant to be seen, not heard. And the child's opinion is too young. What does he know? So it's your parent that tells you, your daddy tells you that you're going to become an engineer or you're going to become a doctor. To the point of saying, I'm going to study clinical psychology and then law. I know that's not how you were raised. How did you transition to that stage where you actually feel that the children have agency and their views and their opinions are important, that you listen to, of course, while at the same time not necessarily leaving your own responsibility? So your agenda still comes in, but they know that they have voice and their opinions matter. How did you get to that stage?
I had to learn. So as much as, in this age, we say we want to listen to our children, we should listen, we were not listened to, and all of that. I remember when I just started, when my kids say, when I say, don't do this, and they go, why? I go, because mommy said so. Like, don't try to argue.
I still do that sometimes.
And, that was how, I really started. But as, I started attending events and programs, listening to other people, and also seeing the impact on my kids. I started asking, what's the better way? And then also, because Beulah has a disability, I remember one of the early things that my husband did with her was to sit with her, even before we did the amputation of the leg, to have a conversation with her. And a lot of people felt like, why is he?
How old was she then?
She was 2 years and 3 months. And so he asked, I said, is it okay if we take away this leg that you have, but we would give you another leg that you'll be able to walk with? And she said, yes, I would want that. And for us, that was her saying yes to the surgery. And so, because we clearly told her, you would not have this leg that you currently have again, but you will have another leg. So the conversations, started from there. So it was she saying yes. And we would have things like, family meetings where we sit everybody down. I mean, we still do it till date and say, okay, next year, which countries would you like to travel to? It's not saying that we will definitely travel to those places. And this one say, oh, I want to go to the UK. This one say, I want to go to China. Like he then wants to go to Japan because of anime right now. And so the question is why? So we started asking why, and then we say, okay, no promises, but we'll work towards this. And these are the key things that we're looking out to do. In doing that also, we also use the avenue to pass our information across. So I would say I learned it. I unlearned the saying, because mommy said so. Sometimes they will even come to me and say, I really want to ask you something, but if I ask you now, you say mommy said so. So I started seeing that, I was having a problem that I needed to fix. And so I would say, no, go ahead and tell me. I won't say because mommy said so. So I listen to them and then I say, okay, so how, sometimes I even throw it back to them when I know that I don't have the answer. I say, so how do you think we should resolve this? And that's where I start hearing their opinion. They come back, they tell you about their friends, what's going on, what's happening. And then I start asking, how can this get better? I think I'm still learning. Because there are days I just really want to tell you, nothing. Just do what I asked you to. And, there are days I really feel like that. But especially, now that Beulah is a teenager, Eden is still in his preteens, they have a lot of questions, and there's so much to learn from them. So I kept listening. I remember the first time Beulah said she was going to do psychology. Before then, she has always said she wanted to be a teacher. And she kept saying, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. And then eventually she now started saying, I want to do psychology. Then she became very specific, clinical psychology. And, I sometimes think like, oh, maybe it will change. But a part of me really feels like it will not change because she's doing a lot of research. She comes to even come and tell me names of psychologists that I don't know about and, new theories and what's going on, because she's beginning to tell herself, this is the part where I want to work. These are the things that interest me. And one day I asked her, I said, is it because your mommy is, doing something along this path? And she said, no, there's a reason why I want to do this. And she's very clear as to why she wants to do law to support the psychology, because I'm like, they're very divergent, but she understands why she wants to do it. So I'll say that's been the journey for me. I know that I can still do a lot better. And I think also, with platforms like Pathfound, you start getting to understand better how you relate with your child and how you can get better and how the relationship can get even better. So I'm very involved in their lives, in their teachers' lives, in the school's life, in everything that they literally do. And also it's learning that when they say, I want to do something, I don't say you cannot do that. The question becomes, how can you do it? So the first time Beulah says, I want to ride a bicycle, it's easy for you to think with one leg.
You're reinforcing one of the concepts that's very important to us, which is growth mindset.
The question then became how, and then we realized we needed to get her a teacher, we needed to change the pedals, but also she needed to bring something to the table. You need to be available to learn. And so, we were able to make that happen. Now she rides the bicycle very well. Probably we can't even remember the history of how, we got on that track about 2-3 years ago.
Fantastic. We're coming close to the end of the podcast. However, we wanted to ask you one more question, or a few more questions maybe, to do with your children's experience. So some weeks ago, we ran a pilot program for Pathfound, which kind of took children or young secondary school students on a journey, understanding a bit more about careers, understanding a lot more about the mindset they should have for the careers they want. Your children were involved in the pilot. Can you tell us your experience of it, observing as a parent, and the impact it's had on your kids?
Okay, so the first thing is, I think that's so amazing, and I think you guys should find a way to scale. It shouldn't just be a pilot. A lot more parents should get their kids involved to engage their minds. And I'll say some of the things that I think can be done to make it more beautiful. But for my kids, the first thing that happened was, first they had the shock of, she has enrolled us in yet another program. And so, but the fact that it was going to be online, it was going to be their own time, really was good. And when they went through the first class, I remember asking them, so how did it go? And they said, oh, it went well. Bila was a bit dismissive initially. But after the entire program ended, my son actually came to me and told me that he wanted to, okay, I was having conversation about his academics, and I'm like, okay, this year, what are we settling for? What are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to have 95% across all my courses. And when I do it, you're going to buy me X. And for me, that was like, I was like, okay, if you make it happen, mommy's commitment is yes, she will do this. But I think it came from the program and setting goals, and then how to your goals. So it was very specific. That's really went a long way to really help him. And also same with Beulah. So I think he enhanced what they'd known about goal setting, but this time around they were setting very clear goals and what they wanted to achieve and when. So the program helped them with that. It also helped them to understand themselves and be self-aware. So, you would see things like this period of time, in fact, I had a lot more experience with my son. He say, I'm studying now, I'm playing now, I'm doing this now. He understood himself better and how Because I asked him, how would
Mm.
you be able to score 95% across all your courses? And he said, Mommy, I know what my issues were before and why, I was dwindling between 89 and 90. But now I'm going to study a lot more. I will get into a study group. Like, he had it all clearly called out and mapped out. And I know that this is all
Fantastic.
thanks to the Pathfound, pilot program that they had. And that was really very good for both of them, because also my daughter was able to clearly tell me, I'm doing my checkpoint exam, and so I'm not going to be taking, because I wanted her to do some other things. And she said, this period, I would like to just focus on my checkpoint exam. And when I'm done, then I'll take on the extras that you want me to.
Fantastic, fantastic. And it's beautiful seeing that transition. For us at Pathfound, that's the kind of transition we're looking to have with the children and the young students that come across our path, to kind of transform their thinking, not just for even later, but for now, so that they can make the right steps going to where they want to go to later. Fantastic. I mean, this has been a really, really beautiful episode. Beautiful first episode. I couldn't have asked for a better first episode, basically. We're really grateful. Thank you for joining us on this. Well, now, if people wanted to, get in touch with you and find out more information about the foundation, or find out more, or just get in touch with you in any way, what are the best ways for them to reach out to you?
Best ways to reach out to me, two ways: social media. My handles are just my name, Crystal Chigbu, across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So good way to reach me. The foundation is the Irede Foundation, also same, THEIREDE Foundation, one word, across all the platforms. And the foundation's website is also really good. And if you can't remember any of the handles, just Google my name. I'm sure that you see so much.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we'll put that in the show notes as well, so that people can refer to it and reach out to you. We've got many parents who will be listening to this podcast. What's one piece of advice, if they didn't remember anything else from this, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I'll say your child is unique. Don't compare your child with any other child. Just stay with the uniqueness of your child. And when you do that, you would definitely see that that child will thrive. Because most of the time we try to compare. We compare, Ore and Crystal. Why is Ore wearing glasses and Crystal is not? Why is Crystal having a color there? And because we're doing that, we really do lose our kids. So if we can quit, it's a bit difficult, comparing and just focusing on their uniqueness, our children will all thrive. There's this adage that says, the sky, can take every bird. And so it doesn't matter. We'll have some of them that will be tech people. We'll have some of them that will be in the nonprofit space. We'll have some of them that will be doctors. And so you can say, have you not seen Femi and already in tech? Why are you doing nonprofit? So you don't want to compare. Please, please, please stop comparing.
Fantastic. Crystal, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
joining
so
us.
much.
And yeah, we'll be in touch. And thank you very much. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, go ahead and share it with friends and family, other people who would be interested in learning more about helping their children become the best that they can be. All right, we'll catch you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.
Bye.